We are live. Okay, we are live. And this is the Committee of Conference on H.949 and Act relating to property tax yield, the non-homestead property tax rate, and technical changes to add 5 years. And the floor is yours.
Oh, it's so nice to be here with you. Thank you. I think there have been like updated numbers since we were last this bill in either of our committees. So I would love to hear those as like a prep. And then we spent a bunch of time in committee discussing your carve outs to the excess spending threshold, but we spent a lot of time hypothesizing about your intent.
Okay.
And probably better to hear it from you than our own imaginations.
Excess spending. I think the intent is we can buy down the property tax rates. I think the intent is to say to schools, this is serious, that we need to start ratcheting down because the foundation formula is coming. And if not ratcheting down, I think that as the finances get tighter, this might motivate activities which are not being made mandatory in the bills. But I think it's a motivation.
And then the carve out, not the school construction, there's sort of a clear lot. The other one with the if you spend more and then you spend less.
I think it's trying to make, we understand there are things with weighting, if you lose 2 heavily weighted students, it has a lot more impact on your bottom line than if you lose 3 non-weighted students. And so making allowances that the school is doing everything it can to control its costs, but that sometimes students move in, students move out. Sometimes your cafeteria catches fire, that there are things beyond your control that you may need. It isn't because you're just not paying attention, it's because things happen. And so trying to say, you really need to start working on this, but we'll give you a ramp.
Can I add that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just thinking whether if somebody's above 112, we kind of want them to change their spending trajectory. And if they do, by fitting in either of those buckets, flatline their pupil spending or their total spending, then we should respect the fact that they are changing their trajectory and, not try to, eat too hard on it.
Can you talk about unintended consequences of that?
Well, we talked through it. I think maybe what you're thinking of is somebody could find themselves, let's say they're at 116 and they meet one of those criteria, and so they're exempt. And we realized that, but we thought the important thing is that the only way they could really become exempt was to change their spending trajectory, and that we thought was the important part.
I think the tax department has a lot to say about that. I don't know how much time they got to spend with you all, so I don't know if it's helpful to have them.
I think, yeah,
Okay.
we passed that early on.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they may have had more time to work on it. They have not been in this.
I would love to just hear the updated numbers if that's okay with
Okay.
you all.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think that's Julia.
She's right.
And we had another lovely spread. It's like that,
Okay.
but this is we print, we can read.
I know, I was supposed to have it, right?
More treats, but you can read it.
Shirley, can we have like folders or binders?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Julie Ricker, Director of Fiscal Office. So I see that you've got a printed outlook in front of you. Do you want me to share my screen or do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think so.
Share the screen?
Yeah, then other people can see it. Anybody who's watching can see.
So I believe this is posted on the committee page. Under my name?
Oh, look at that.
Okay, so this is posted on the committee page under my name. So big picture, just as a reminder, as you all know, the budget information from school districts is coming in at updated intervals over the course of the session. And when bodies or committees get close to voting out the yield bill, we pause or we hold that budget information constant so you can compare apples to apples. And then after the yield bill moves out of committee or moves into the other body, budget information is updated. So what we're looking at here is I got the latest budget updates from AOE yesterday. And they really didn't change very much from the last data update of May 5th, but May 5th was still after it passed out of Senate Finance. So I'm just going to walk through briefly sort of the two constructs with respect to the yields. So this is section 1, 2 yield bill. So columns B and C reflect the House position, House construct of H.949. Column B reflects the yields and the rate as they were passed out of the House. You'll recall that the House construct uses or has the 104.9 million transfer from the general fund in fiscal year 2027, uses half of that for uniform bill relief in 27 and holds the other half of it in reserve for fiscal year 2028, so 52.5 million. With the updated budget information, the House passed out what they believed at the time to be a uniform average bill change. So if the policy objective were to be consistent with the House position, there would be new yields and rates reflected in column C. So we see that by using half of the one-time money to uniformly lower bills in FY27, that would result in an average bill increase estimated to be 6.4% compared to the prior year. And then the second two columns, or the last two columns, D and E, this is reflecting the Senate position. So you'll recall that the Senate position uses 100.9 million in one-time general fund revenues to uniformly lower property tax bills in FY27, doesn't hold any of that in reserve. That other 4 million is included in the budget, the Senate budget construct to increase the renter credit. Here we see in column D, the yields and rate as they passed out of the Senate, but with updated budget information, budgets came down a hair more, which is not reflected here in column in row 11 because of rounding, but they came down a hair more. So when resolving the rates and yields, that resulted in an average uniform bill change of 3.5%. The final note is, as you all know, the lines highlighted in blue, of course, reflect other bills that would impact the education fund in fiscal year 2027. So that includes the miscellaneous funds bill. Of course, it includes the one-time general fund transfer, includes the TIF payment, also included in H.949. To the extent that there's other bills being considered, for instance, I know Senate Finance is currently considering H.757 with a sales tax exemption in FY27. To the extent that there are other bills being contemplated, if those were to come into effect and impact FY27, that would need to be included in the end.
What's 757?
It's a housing bill and what this would do for manufacturing.
Oh, thank you.
We did that.
Yep, yeah, thanks.
We also have which fiscal 942, which could put up to an $11 million hit. They prefer. I hope not.
So I
942.
question. Julia, so the education payment is consistent across the House and Senate version and the updated budget information. And I don't see anything else that has changed that's in the appropriations lines. So what's allowing the House went from, 7% down to 6.4%,
Yeah, so,
3 what allows that to happen?
so, great question. The columns that we're looking at here, for instance, B and D, that are showing the constructs as passed out, are showing the updated budget information, but are not showing the changed yields. So if we were to go back, we could pull up, the Ed Fund outlook that you were looking at in Senate Finance.
Yeah.
When you passed out the yield bill, the education payment would have been different. It would have been higher, and then with the updated budget information, I've put the updated budget information back into the yields model. And then I've put in the yields and rates that you passed out of the Senate and out of the House and resolved for the average bill change. So what we're looking at here is, to your point, all of these appropriations should be consistent across all of the constructs, unless there is a difference in the appropriation position of one chamber. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, I think if the budget went down, that would show up in line 11, but it doesn't.
So it does.
Right.
It
So,
does.
like the 2.0675 billion
Yes, right.
is the latest May 18th budget information.
Oh, okay.
And so what you're seeing in column D is an updated version
So
of what
we
we
passed
passed
it, it
out.
wasn't 2067.5. Okay.
Exactly. It was higher than that.
Now,
I would need to check another outlook. Yeah.
okay, now I understand.
And there it's still, I don't know if it.
There's a bunch that I
Even
filled
we
out.
just don't have it.
So that's a good point. And this is the best available budget data. So if a budget has gone down, what's being carried is the latest warned budget information, even if that budget failed.
Yeah.
And it is very often the case that the yield bill and the big bill pass after all budgets haven't been passed, and that's the nature of.
Okay.
VHS. Okay. Close.
Other questions that we have, the renter credit, it's an interesting new idea. I feel like we've done lots of things in the context of how we spent this money in the last few years, but that's a new one.
That was, and I think, again, I have a committee that. And thought was that we do everything to reduce the property taxes. We have done nothing in increase renter credit. There, as property taxes go up, their rent goes up. And that at least for this year, when we have $1 million to transfer over, or 100 million, not million, 100 million, all those zeros get mixed up. That we share some of that bounty with the branches because they're hurting as much as it. So that's where that came from, and we managed to the increase to be very light. I think it was 0.1 in there. We had to keep it under 4.
And it seems like you're still able to have a pretty big impact on renters with
Yeah.
a little bit of.
With a little bit of money, yeah, and not a lot of impact, so.
It also opened an interesting door that once we start sort of spending that general fund transfer on related things, but
Right.
not just this one line item. Lots of questions about what else I could go to.
Of course, we've been told this is the last year there will be a general fund transfer. Or maybe we'll be all general fund transfer, I've heard that.
Wow.
So I was just had a question about that because obviously our construct was spending half of the 105.9 this year, next year. And in the debates in the House, we even thought about 3 years as being not being able to count on that general fund transfer in years going forward. And every indication we get is that you can't really rely on that future years. So could you talk about why you decided to spend it all in 1 year rather than over 2 years or 3 years?
I think a combination. I think there was a lot of concern about helping people this year when everything else is going up and hurting, like gasoline, which is driving everything and may not be as bad next year, we all hope. And again, yeah, and I think it was probably also this one we're gonna have a fight with the administration.
I think for me, it was, if we take the whole thing this year, we're putting that money in taxpayers' pockets. If we, did the house construct, we would put half in taxpayers' pockets and we put half into reserve, which shows up next year in the tax letter, which signals to districts how expensive the money is and how much they might ask for. It kind of showed up in school district budgets. That was, I think.
It was an interesting argument that would, if they know there's money sitting out there, that it might.
Similar to the governor's announcement mid-December.
Yeah, but the timing is different, right?
Like that.
Show up in the tax letter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I guess I'm wondering, then we've had a lot of like remarkable number of school districts write to us and say, like, please stop doing this transfer altogether because the instability is even worse than the tax rate.
and they know
So,
what's coming.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what you all. I imagine most of us will be here next year. What are we gonna do?
I don't think any of us know.
Well, hopefully, and we'll get to it.
For an answer.
We'll get to it here, I think, eventually, as we include S.220 language in here to try to at least slow down the high spenders as much as we can, to try to slow down the spending growth, so we're not having to put all this money in.
Okay, so even if that happens and education reform happens, there's still gonna be a pretty big hole next
It's
year.
gonna be a hole.
Yeah, it depends on district spending decisions, but sure, of course, yeah. Yeah, likely.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we can go from 100 to cold turkey. And then, yeah.
I don't even know what cold turkey means.
No, nothing.
No one spends any money?
No money comes over for your dinner fund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're anticipating that we're gonna do a transfer next year?
Not anticipating it, but I think we're gonna have a hole. So,
We will have a hole, no matter what we do.
I think the estimates we got from JFO is looked like a 15% increase in a year, second year, if we didn't have the general fund transfer. So that's shocking. We were trying to make it an easier landing. That's the idea.
Got a couple grants.
I do think
In education, they'll ramp up and ramp down, and this one is kind of operating.
we talked a lot in our work on the yield bill about using this as sort of a ramp to education reform, but I'm not sure that either of our bills were successful in building that. And so I wonder if maybe we can find a way to do that.
And I'm wondering, we're ramping up and down property tax rates. How that junction is gonna work when we go off ed fund and general fund transfer. And we're going into either, ramping you up and ramping you down, both in spending and tax rates. How those are gonna fit together, and that might be an interesting thing to talk about. I think we have a couple of years in there where it's wildly different land, but we don't know.
And I've heard from the administration that there's some desire to create some ongoing pressure towards reform. And I think too much causes chaos, which actually makes change very hard, right? Because if people are, if every year is an emergency, it's hard to do, it's very hard to do planning and like, change actually takes common communication, which is in short supply these days.
And we,
Any questions?
I don't know whether I dare ask or not. Has there been any discussion of reducing the ed fund? The services that the ed fund pays for? At one time, there was certainly discussion about pulling the social services out of the ed fund and having it paid by the agency of human services or other things, which I know just use it to the general fund. But is there any validity from a financial perspective of doing it that way? And I know it just puts the pressure on the income tax, the general fund, as opposed to the pressure on the property.
one thing I hadn't quite realized is that the ed fund is the same size as the general fund. It is not a huge money machine that you can just take money out of. Either in this or in some of the income taxing bills, there's been discussion about the teachers' benefits coming out, the universal school meals, got the usual things that we look at. I think it's a little harder to pin down what social services are.
Right, I understand, but I know that the schools often complain. We are putting a lot more money into
Yeah.
special services for students in the school district
Yes.
because of mental health issues or
Right.
disability or a whole.
And there's a lot in 955 to try to fix that. And then, in the budget, there's that Medicaid billing change. That
Right.
should actually make a big difference for that as well.
Right.
But we have also consistently underfunded our mental health agencies to the point where they don't and they can't get the staffing because of the salary levels.
Right,
that
no,
they need.
I understand all those factors.
So they
I'm wondering-
complain because they go to the schools and immediately get several $1,000s increase in their salary.
The other thing that we talk about in committee every year and don't do is sort of the other side of this, which is the exemptions to the property tax.
Correct.
And everyone has their favorite exemption to the property tax, but there's definitely not everyone can agree on their favorite exemption to the property.
Don't touch my senior housing. That was one.
Or, we have TIF bill.
Yes.
We don't have.
The city of
Um,
Montpelier is very with property tax. We do, yeah, we do. We did not have that discussion this year. It's been had in the past.
So, I personally would like to hear from tax about their concerns about the exemptions to the excess spending threshold and unintended consequences that they see as a possibility there.
We will get them.
That would be a nice next step. I think we got a letter from the administration earlier today.
I haven't seen it yet. Senator.
You have a copy? Somebody has a copy?
Thank you.
It needs to be on all three.
I have
Yeah,
one.
you gave me.
I think it's the same one for everybody. It's not.
No, we all got.
I mean, for all.
I've forgotten it for your James letter.
Here,
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is actually a different one, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the one he references all three.
Well, this is nine.
Right,
yeah.
No,
I feel like there was one that's just, wasn't there one just about the yield bill though?
Yes, he talks about all of them. I don't know that.
Oh, no, okay, great.
That just does this.
No, there was one that was just.
They're all, I have trouble keeping track of what we did. I know what we did, but it's in which bill.
Oh,
Because at least in this committee, we did them both, the final readings on the same day.
Oh, yeah.
And there are things that are relevant to both bills
Yeah.
that have moved back and forth, so.
okay.
There was something else.
I think that was for. This stuff. I don't think there's anything in here I need explained. Anyone?
Clarifying question about Julia's here. So 757 is not currently factored into these numbers. If that $1 million cost to the ed fund, we're incorporating 500,000 this year and $1 million after.
Julia Rifner, correct. And that said, as we know, one exemption or one cost of that scale would have de minimis impact on property taxes, and multiple exemptions or cost of that scale would no longer be de minimis. One thing to consider is you can look at the very bottom line, row 37 of the ed fund outlook, and you can see how much is left in reserve unallocated. And that's as close as we can get to a uniform average bill change without putting the ed fund into deficit.
Oh, perfect. So I think we'll think about, sort of that desire for a ramp and, your concerns about student changes. I know that phantom pupils didn't work. No. Yeah. And I know that with the scale that school districts are at now, you know, a few students changing can have a huge impact. So.
And I think we deal with money, but I'm not sure how the message is being heard or what's happening. I know there's some concern about articles of agreement and what they're doing to make it difficult for schools to do any consolidating or merging. And that is in large part not in our domain. But I think we do need to work at getting it concise. We're all marching in the same direction at the same time.
Yes, I think we will need more clarity on
Yes,
955 before we can finalize this.
yeah, absolutely will.
There's a few moving pieces. So.
Yes.
There's still moving parts.
Is your proposal is to go down, change it from 118 to 112 and FY 20 years? Correct. Have you talked about doing a ramp down to 112 over years? Have you considered that instead of just one sudden shift? I mean, we heard a lot of testimony from different school districts about how devastating it would be if they had to meet that.
I think yeah, we have this bill in the afternoon too. And for significantly less time. We literally had the education bill for 2 days. So and we have a lot broader in the field. So our ability to really dig into some issues is limited just by time constraints. And
Let's say one thing about it, if I may.
yeah,
So we spent a lot of time at the beginning of the session on the allowable spending growth cap and that construct based on previous year had spend. And so it was maybe a quarter of the way through where we shifted the excess spending threshold as I would say, a more delicate approach to giving centralized budgetary guidance while still allowing districts to possibly spend above it. More importantly, what I think was attractive was that school districts sort of remove the construct, throwing another limitation of the rule at them was concerned. As for the 112, I get that it's low. And what was important to me is one of the exceptions was just to have an appeals process because there will be unintended impacts of that. Whatever number we pick, there will be a district out there that it will have more difficult pressures on them. So it was important to me to at least have in the language some mechanism for them to be considered or to have a hearing, so to speak, to appeal and suspending threshold.
And that makes so much sense to me. And we heard testimony from sort of everyone that you put on that committee that they absolutely don't want to do that. They don't want to, preside over sort of they don't want to be a jury of their peers. The administration felt like there wasn't enough clarity on what constituted an exception.
Yeah, you have to be very clear on your guidelines.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of resistance to that, and I appreciate that when you put in a threshold that low, you need a lot of carve outs to make it work.
Okay, maybe we
So,
To the chair's previous point, we
Yeah.
had to meet crossover, so.
yeah, no,
We did take testimony, I mean, the testimony that the amount of spending that's going on above 112% is about $20 million, which is, you know, if we were to,
Mhm.
you know, if all that spending stopped, which I don't think is will, we're talking about 1% of the total education fund. And I mean, I think you all know this, I mean, those people that are up above 112, they are driving the tax rates up of the people that are
well, I mean,
the
I think
lowest spenders.
it depends on how big the district is, but yeah.
Yeah, it does, sure, of course, but the connection's there.
I have a maybe overly philosophical thought about the excess spending threshold that I just want to share. Is that when it's sort of at a level that districts can really aim for it reasonably, I think it serves as a tool. And this is from testimony I've taken. It's a useful tool for school boards to negotiate with superintendents and business managers and the reverse. I think in some districts, school boards want to spend more and superintendents use it as a tool to help it stabilize and vice versa in other districts. I think if too many districts are below it or above it, we're going to have a lot of taxpayers having double tax bills, having absolutely no idea why. Because any normal person does not pay attention to all this stuff, right? And so I'm nervous that if we do too much too fast, we're just gonna have a lot of people with sky high tax bills who are super pissed about it and have no idea why. And so that's when I think about a ramp, part of it is a ramp to make sure that anyone, you know, knows what they're doing so they can manage to it. Certainly before I was a legislator, I don't think I would have had any idea why my tax rate was what it was.
I mean, most people don't.
Nor should, nor we should all just like be able to live our lives to some degree, right? Like a good government's mostly invisible to
I
us.
think when it gets too heavy a burden.
Yeah.
People focus. And who do you yell at about groceries or gasoline, but.
But your senator who's right behind on the grocery store line.
You know who to yell at, and it is complex, and. You know, 112 was trying to ramp it down, and it's the right number. You know, we seem to be big on ramps these days.
Plus the concept of a number instead of percentage of the 2025 average spending adjusted for inflation. So as a concept, if you've ever thought about that, is it easier to understand or harder? I'm not sure, but it might be something that we talk about.
I don't understand.
So right now, we calculate it based on what the 2025 spending was adjusted for inflation by
Yeah.
NEPA.
Right.
And then if you're 112, 118% over that.
Yeah.
And suddenly they gloss over. Instead, if you come up with what that number is, then maybe that's easier to understand.
I'll just give them the number 60,000, whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah.
Then adjusted for inflation.
Knows what NIPA is.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Julia does. Julia does.
Julia, but the average person out there.
I saw on most of the, you know, the worksheet that the districts put together, that explain the words. Most of them, I did see the number, they did put the number on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I just try to explain how they got there because you lose most people.
Yeah. Yeah, those people.
So just I felt this we work through this.
A related thought to that was every year with whoever's here next year, when they do the yield bill, it seems to make sense to consider the excess spending threshold to be at a percentage or an actual net amount.
Yeah.
Just be a conversation every day.
So next time, we would like to hear from the tax department.
Yes.
Please. Okay. Anybody else?
I think that's it for me.
And that will be on
Tomorrow?
the coursing. We're losing staff after tomorrow. Why
I
don't
thought
your
Autumn-
staff is coming down?
Autumn's gonna
Autumn's
come.
coming.
Mhm.
So just to know what we
Mhm.
want to tell them.
Okay.
What do we want the tax department to tell us?
To comment on the exemptions to the excess spending threshold.
Yes, and how difficult that might be or not to administer. Because they didn't come in, I think, in our next committee this afternoon, or
Well, and
going
then,
to hear, tax changes, that it just took a while for them to figure out how easy or difficult it would be to do some things. Now that we have
I
them.
think in the Senate passed language, the appeals process. The appeals process was organized by AOE of tax.
I would
That's
say,
AOE.
AOE.
It's the other exemption.
The other exemption.
The other exemption. We can also hear from AOE about that other part if you want.
Anybody wants to?
Yep.
I know we've had that construct in the past, I just don't know how it works.
Well, I don't think
anyone
anybody ever
ever used it.
utilized it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the renter's credit being only a 1 year? Does the tax department have concerns regarding other employees?
That was a last minute change, like Friday afternoon, and I don't know if they had a chance to respond.
Oh, so maybe Jay can speak to that as well.
Maybe he can
Yeah.
speak
I
to
would just
that.
wonder about the mechanics.
I mean,
of
this-
implementing
this
that 1
was-
year and then not the other.
Yeah,
I will say he didn't comment. I mean, he might have something to say here. I don't, he came into our committee to talk about it, the renter credit, and I don't remember him actually expressing concern about that, which.
I think and the reason it's 1 year is because we only know we've got the $1 million for 1 year, the same way we can spread it out over 2 years or 3 years, but it's still gonna be a drop at the end.
Well, if you're spending 1,200 and before, you might as well do it all at once. As opposed, or do them in halves or in thirds or.
Yeah, but consistent either.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thought, that we had this. I was last year's largesse because there's no 100 million floating around this year's budget. And, we have been sheltering property taxpayers, their voters, from the price of their decisions.
There was that year that we almost mailed checks back, didn't almost, but there was a proposal to mail checks back to people.
I remember when we did that, the first year of Act 60, and then if you didn't owe the taxes or didn't get the credit the next year, you had to mail the check back. My house got a $200 check, and I looked at my husband and said, there's no way we're going to, earn that or qualify for it. Do not spend it. I had more than one elderly person who spent it,
I mean,
and then the tax bill came in and there was no money left to pay. And in the end, the decision was, because it was 1 year's taxes and last year's income, and what if your income
this is
went
the
up?
kind of stuff I don't want to do, and I'm
That's
worried that
right,
the
and
exemptions
it
are
was
sort of a little.
Decided that it was probably, yes, we have another thing going on, but probably better, cheaper for the goodwill, for us to just swallow those few people that might see a great largesse because their income went up, because the alternative where you send people checks.
That's not a good idea.
And we doing 9 AM tomorrow? Is that a possibility?
Wait, I have, no,
Okay,
I
don't have anything with you.
I thought Ashley's,
Oh, maybe we do.
she said
Oh.
8:30, but it was still being formed.
Okay,
Discussion.
can we say 9:15 tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay, and we'll move it if we
Yeah.
have to?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, you talked to Autumn? You're all
Under all this.
Thank you.
message.
Great.
And
Okay.
you'll find her.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Terrific.